Ayoa TV, ulimwengu kiganjani.
Bird gets inside the water to get some fish, it barely makes any splash, right? So what engineers have done is actually they've inspired themselves not to change the tunnel, but to change the face of the train. Now look at this. Can you see that? Right? So it looks a bit like a bird, right? Yeah. So you see, by imitating nature, basically they were able to reduce the noise and eliminate the tunnel boom. So another thing, what happened is that by following this design, actually, so another thing that I need to explain is that when you go through air and you have some kind of resistance, actually it's like a car, you're going slower. When you go slower because of air friction, you need to use more fuel, more diesel, more electricity, more energy. You with me? Right. If you're able to take that off, actually you can go faster and use less energy. So what happened is that when the engineers used that design, just like the bird, they were able to go 10% faster, all right, and use 15% less electricity. So think about it, that's cool. From a customer perspective, it means that you're arriving earlier, okay? And from an operator perspective, you're using 15% less electricity, which means that you're saving on money, yeah? Okay, so that's about the design part, you see? Designing by inspiring yourself from nature. Now, once you've designed and done the plan and all the drawings, what is the next step? Yes. Building, yes. There you go. Hey, you see? I have a lot more. Yes. Building construction. Exactly. You have to construct. Once you have, it's like when you have a plan. After the plan, you have to execute, right? You have to execute your plan. It's the same here. You've done the drawings, now you need to build, right? So, one of the great builders in the animal kingdom are the ants. I can tell you, these guys are actually amazing, they're impressive. But not only in terms of building underground structures, also the way they work between themselves. So you see, when you go to start working in a company, I'm talking to all the HR people here, we'll talk about org chart, right? You have a director, you have managers, supervisors, workers, etc. So that's the governance of your company, the structure. Do you think ants have such type of structure? No, they don't. They don't. So how do they know where to get the material? Anyone has an idea? Do you think they speak to each other? Actually, they do. Not the way we do, but in a different way. Actually, what they do is they produce some type of pheromones. So it's a very subtle smell. And that smell can tell to the next ant, because this is how they walk one after the other, right? And when one ant finds a suitable material or food, it will produce a small chemical that will tell to the next ant whether what she found is of good quality or not. You see? And sometimes you will see, if you observe ants, they will change path. Because they will say, okay, this way is not the best way to get food, right? And actually, this type of phenomenon has been very inspiring in the IT industry. Okay, now, you know ChatGPT, right? Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Who has ever used ChatGPT for school assignment? It means all of you guys, I was sure about it. Yes, well, okay, so actually the AND, you see, this is what you call the AND colony optimization algorithm. So it's called ACO. So it's a system of trial and error. It's a bit the same than AI, you see. Sometimes you type your prompt on ChatGPT and then, ChatGPT will give you an answer and you may not be satisfied with the answer. So you will provide a feedback to ChatGPT to say, no, that's not what I asked for. What I wanted is da 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 da. So ChatGPT will correct the answer, yeah? So it's the same principle. It's the same principle which they inspired themselves from the ants. So there are a lot of companies using that type of algorithm, especially logistics companies, because they need to understand what is the best route to deliver their goods. So basically they follow the same technique as ants. By the way, guys, I want to warn you about ChatGPT. You still need to use your brain, alright? Do not rely on ChatGPT all the time. Do not believe everything ChatGPT said. And I'm going to give you an example. So 2 years ago, one of my clients here wanted to design an amphitheater, and one of the requirements was to have 100 people in it. All right. So she said, Prasad, so we need to design this space. How big do you think the surface is going to be? Okay, because she was thinking about construction costs. So she said, it's going to be 100 square meters. And I said, absolutely no way. She said, yeah, but ChatGPT said so. I said, look, we are going to run the calculations with my team using international standards and all our experience, and let's see what we find. So ChatGPT said 100 square meters. What we found is that the bare minimum was 165 square meters. See, using the proper calculation. Now imagine if I gave the assignment to a junior person and that person got the result from ChatGPT. That would be a very big problem, because that means that the result from ChatGPT is not compliant with building standards. So imagine if you have 100 people trapped in a small 100 square meter place and you have a fire. How do you do? Right? It's going to be very complicated to evacuate. So in some countries, if you use the wrong result for design and building, you can actually end up in jail. Right? So that's the lesson. So it's cool to use ChatGPT, but please be careful. And the other thing is, anyway, as lecturers and teachers, we know when someone uses ChatGPT, right? And we have detectors for that. Okay, one day, if you travel to Belgium and go to Brussels, the capital, I strongly suggest you to order this dish. So as you can see here, you have some fries, and here you have what you call mussels. So mussels is a shellfish. So it looks very weak and harmless like that, but it's actually a very interesting species. So you see, these animals, you find them along the beach and in the sea, right? And where they live is actually, they're stuck into rocks. See, rocks at the beach. Now, the thing is, at the beach you have waves. And sometimes the waves are very strong. The waves, you calculate the strength of wave through speed. And some of the waves are actually going up to 90 kilometers per hour. So just imagine yourself being hit by a car at 90 kilometers per hour. Would you survive? No, right? Okay, now imagine these little guys. This is the size of a muscle, by the way. This is the size of a muscle. Now imagine these muscles getting hit by a 90-kilometer body mass of water. It's supposed to break, right? And also another thing is these guys are sitting on a rock. Just imagine any of you guys sitting on a rock and getting hit by a 90 kilometers per hour wave. What will happen? You'll fly away, right? Or you get hurt. But these guys, they do not fly away because they're stuck on the rock using a very special glue. These guys are getting battered by storm all year long, but they're still standing strong on their rock. They're actually using a very special enzyme. It's called L-DOPA. It's an amino acid, and they basically produce that chemical that will get them to stick on the rock, whatever happens. Now remember, the sea environment is not just water, it's salty water. And you know, salt water also has a specific acidity. It's not the water that you're drinking, right? So very harsh chemical conditions. Now, humans have tried to copy that glue, okay? They've tried to copy the muscle glue for industrial purposes. So for example, aerospace, okay? And so they try to inspire themselves to produce that glue, and this glue is very rare. It's very toxic, and it's permanent. Now, I want you to understand this. If we use that glue, let's say I put this glue on my hand and I stick it to the board, I'm never gonna get my hand back. The only way for me to get my hand back is to cut my hand. Right? Now, let's go back to the muscles. These guys, you know, they migrate as well. Because comes the time of the year, they need to reproduce themselves. And they're not staying on the same rock all the time. So, you know, they glue themselves on this rock, and then on the mating season, they have to move to another rock. Yeah? What does it mean? It means that that glue not only is strong, but is also flexible. You understand? But the thing is, the glue that we humans have created is permanent, which means that our glue is not as good as the glue from the muscle. Are you with me? Still, this glue is very expensive because we use it in aerospace industry, you know, to send rockets to the moon, or even sometimes in airplanes. All right? So it is a very, very expensive piece of chemical. Now, let's play a game. All right. I want you guys to guess how much cost 1 kilo of this glue. Okay, 1 kg. 1 kg of this glue. I want you, so actually, by the way, this is just 1 milligram. 1 milligram is nothing. Yeah? I want you to guess the price of 1 kg, 1 kilo of this glue. Okay, I'm listening. How much? Don't be scared. Tell me. Okay, let's do it in US dollars. What's the rate today? 2,500? Oh my God. Okay. Let's guess it in US dollars. 1 kilo. Anyone? Oh, come on, guys. Give me a price. Give me a price. Be crazy. Be creative. Let's discussing. I give you 1 minute. I'll give you one. Okay, I'll give you one hint. Just one hint. Okay, so as I said when I introduced myself, I used to live in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong in China is in the top 3 places on the planet with the most expensive real estate on earth. This gentleman is called Li Ka-shing and he's the richest man in Hong Kong. And this is his house. It's a very nice house. It's a very expensive house. So now I'm asking you again, what is the price of 1 kilogram of this glue in US dollars? Yes?
I'm trying to guess.
Yeah.
The 1 kilogram can be costing US dollar 70,000.
70,000. 70,000 US dollars. Nice try. You don't even close, my friend. But nice try. Yes?
It looks like. I think 1 kilogram of glue will cost 5,500.
How much?
5,500.
5,500 US dollars. So lower than what your friend said? No. No. Anyone else? Guys, you have to be more ambitious. You guys are entrepreneurs. Yes. Huh? 1,000? No. You? 1,000 US dollars? No, guys. Last one. 600,000 US dollars? Okay, we're getting close actually, but you're still far. Okay, I'll give you another hint. So this is the price of his house. 255 million US dollars. 255 million US dollars. So sorry, how do it? So it's what is it Milioni US dollars. Now I'm asking the question again. How much do you think costs 1 kilogram of this glue? Guys at the back, can you see the price? You realize the price of this? 255 million US dollars. That's the price of his house. Okay, anyone? Come on, someone, yes? Sorry? $80,000? No. Okay, I'll give you the answer. So 1 kilogram of this glue costs 333 million US dollars. I'm repeating, 1 kilogram of this glue costs 333 million US dollars. That's a lot of money, right? Imagine what you can do with all that money. Right? So you see, like even when we try to compete with nature, nature is more expensive than us. You see? Better and more expensive. Okay. So now we've looked at designing, we've looked at building, and then what happens? After you have constructed your building or your product, what do? You operate it. You operate it or you use it. So you see, planning, design phase, construction, manufacturing, and then operations and maintenance. Okay? So, this very interesting building. Do you know about this building? Have you ever seen it? It's quite famous in the region. Okay, so this building is actually in Zimbabwe. It's in Harare. Okay? So this is a commercial building. And it has a very funny architecture. And this building, actually, so you know in Zimbabwe they have a lot of power cuts. Now, put yourself in the shoes of someone who goes through a commercial mall, who is there for shopping. If it's hot and humid, you're not feeling good, right? So you're not going to spend your money. So from a commercial perspective, you want your building to be cool, fresh, and very pleasant, so that customers can spend more time in the building and spend more money. Okay? Now, the thing is, because they have a lot of power cuts, they needed to come up with some special ideas to make the place a pleasant place. So what they did is they actually inspired themselves from termites. Okay? You guys have ever seen this? Yeah. So termites, those very small insects. So this guy is actually fascinating. Because in that part of Zimbabwe, you see the temperature fluctuation during the day and even during the whole year are very high. Sometimes at night, it goes down to 4 degrees Celsius, and sometimes during the day, it goes up to 42 degrees. So it's very high fluctuations. However, scientists have started measuring the temperature inside these castles. And the thing is, they found out that whether it's during the day or the night, the temperature is always the same. For us, if we want to maintain the temperature in a room, we need to use fans, we need to use AC, we need to use electricity, right? But these guys, these animals, do they have electricity? No, they don't. So they use a very complicated system of tunnels and galleries that let the air go through. And this is how they regulate the temperature inside their castle all day long and all year long. Okay? So imagine, that's why they use this type of architecture, which is basically replicating the different tunnels and airflow of the termite castle. Yeah? In terms of maintenance, you know, it's the same for buildings. Sometimes you have to paint the building. Sometimes the building gets dirty because of the wind bringing dust, because of birds going on your building. You need to maintain the building. You need to clean the paint, right? So some manufacturers have actually created what we call self-cleaning coating. So it's a paint that when it rains, it's actually washing itself. Yeah? And actually their inspiration was this plant leaves. Can you notice in nature how leaves are always clean? Because they have a very special surface. When it rains, the leaves are actually cleaning themselves, right? So that they do not accumulate dust. What do you think would happen if dust was accumulating on plants? Can anyone guess? Okay. If plants started to accumulate dust, they would not be able to get sunlight, right? And you know that plants and trees need to get sunlight to live. Are you with me? Right. By the way, you'll notice that this is the very first solar panel on Earth. Right? Why? Because again, plants are getting their energy from the sun. You see? Even for solar panels, we have to copy nature, right? And nature does it even better. Why? Because when the solar panel comes to expiry, what do? We just throw it. But nature is different. When the leaf is expired, it falls on the floor, it disintegrates itself, it gets eaten by insects, and it becomes actually fertilizer for the soil. You see? Think about it. And that is actually what you call disposal. Disposal is at the end of a life cycle. Think of it from a project management perspective. Whether you're building a product or a building, it's the same. So you design, you build, you use it, and then either you sell it or either you put it in the bin. That's the disposal phase. You get rid of it. Now, disposal and waste is purely a human concept, right? We have water bottles. When we finish them, we just throw them in the bin, and then in some places they recycle it, some places they do not. But in nature, recycling is integrally part of the system. You see? So one French scientist that I like, Atoa, he said, nothing is created and nothing is destroyed, but everything is transformed. You see? In nature, the poo from one animal becomes food for another animal. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good. So again, you need to remind yourself that waste is purely a human concept. In nature, waste doesn't exist. In nature, waste is only temporary because it becomes either food or fertilizer for another living organism. Yeah? Okay, nature is always the best in terms of building. It's also the best in terms of health, well-being, and knowledge. In terms of healing. Alright, now, let's play another game. Okay, this time, guys, I want you to be a bit more ambitious. So, do you know what is this thing? Anyone? This is a sea snail, okay? And actually, it lives along the coast of East Africa. I'm not going to tell you where, a bit later. This particular species lives along the coast of East Africa and Australia, okay? And actually, this snail is very dangerous because it has venom. It has venom. If you get bitten by this snail, you probably have 5 minutes to live. That's why I'm not telling you where to find this guy. So, of course, when we talk about venom, think about the industry. Of course, when we talk about venom, the pharmaceutical industry will be interested to extract that venom to produce medicines, right? Or even anti-venom. Why? Because it's big money, right? Imagine you get bitten by this guy and I have the venom with me in my pocket. You would pay me anything to get the medicine, right? Exactly. That's my point. So we're talking about big money. Okay, now, let's play a game. So remember earlier, 1 kilogram of that glue was 333 million US dollars for 1 kilogram. Now, I would like you guys to guess what is the price of 1 kilogram of that venom. Alright, let's go. Be ambitious. You guys are studying business, right? Who wants to be a billionaire? Thank you. You see, it's the ladies actually. Nice. Okay, 1 kilogram. How much? Megali. In US dollars. How much? Okay, I see you guys discussing among yourself. Good. Okay, someone needs to come with an answer now. How much? Okay, the ladies over there. How much? Give me a number. 5 million? Eh, not bad. Not bad. Yes? I can't hear. Sorry. Okay, how much?
934 million.
Wow, 934 million, 24. 924 million US dollars. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is a lot? Okay, I'll give you another hint. So this guy is the richest man in India, and this is his house. It's a big house, huh? I mean, like who needs that amount of space, right? And this is the composition of the chemical, 1 kilogram of this toxin. So our friend over there, he said 924 or 42 million US dollars. Okay, let's see what is the price of his house, of this guy. You see, the house of this gentleman cost 1 billion US dollars. 1 billion US dollars. You see? And the price of the toxin for 1 kilogram is 1.112 billion US dollars. So 900 is very good. And so well done. Please applaud this guy. It's very good. Well done. Be ambitious. Why settle for 5,000 US dollars when you can make 1 billion, right? Be ambitious. So you see, nature always is, even in terms of making money, nature can make more money than us, right? Now let me give you another example. Let's talk about real estate because, we've been talking about the houses of this guy and the previous Chinese guys. Let's talk about real estate. So, there has been a study done around the world in major cities like New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney, London, and they found out in those major capital cities that if your apartment had a view on greeneries like a park or a forest, it would rent 35% more expensive or even sell 35% more expensive than an apartment with no view. Does it make sense? Why? Because imagine you're just sitting in your living room and you're just looking through the window. Would you prefer to have a view on your neighbor or view on the sea or a forest? What would you prefer?
Forest.
The sea or the forest, right? Depending on how your neighbor looks like. But so this is what they have found out during the study, and 35% is a lot. So for those of you who may go into the real estate business, if you develop, make sure you have some greeneries in your real estate development, because at some point you will be selling and renting more expensive than if your apartment has view on another building. Alright? So nature was also an inspiration when it came to urban planning. Okay, so this is the round city of Baghdad in Iraq that was built in the 8th century during the Islamic Golden Age, right? And this is actually almost a university, so it's a city. The two of the main features were the House of Wisdom, which is basically a public academy, which is at the middle, and they have like a central public garden. Okay, it's a very cool city actually. And this garden was a source of inspiration for all the Mwalimus in that university back in the days, because what they used to say is that nature is a library and each species is a book. You with me? So I want you to realize that nature is full of knowledge, right? And you know, now Iraq is a country that makes a lot of money out of what? Oil. You know, oil extraction. That's the biggest part of the GDP. And you know, back in the days, actually, they made money out of knowledge. Why? Because students of the area, like of different countries, would travel to that city to study. And actually, they've done a recent survey, and they found out, like obviously with the currency fluctuation and inflation, that back in the days, this city was making more money in school tuition fee than what they're making money today with oil. Can you imagine? Right? So, again, knowledge is power. You have to remember. Okay? So, anyone has got an iPhone here? No? You guys are Samsung guys? Yeah? Okay, yeah, nice. One iPhone. No, I'm not going to take it from you. But the reason I was asking asking if anyone had an iPhone here, is because actually, look at the architecture, look at the urban planning of this city. Actually, the Apple headquarters in the United States, they inspire themselves from that city to build their own office. So what happens is so during the morning, you would have all the engineers and product designers working in the office, the labs, etc. And then during lunchtime, they would actually hang around into that massive garden and look at all the different trees, different insects, different animals, and try to inspire themselves for the next design. You see? I'm going to give you another interesting example. So, can you see the bee? Yeah? You see on the right side, I've got a bee. On the left side, maybe you cannot see it properly, but it's some flowers. Okay? So everyone knows the relationship between bees and flowers, right? Okay. Well, actually, there is a scientific thing behind bees and flowers. Okay. So let's go back to high school. Okay. So, as you know, plants are rooted to the ground, right? Okay. So what happens is that plants have small negative charges. Okay? Which means that they have an electric field around the flower. You guys with me? Okay. Bees, on the other hand, they have positive charges. Why? Because when a bee is flapping its wing, actually it creates positive charges. Have you guys ever roughed some piece of cloth together and create some static electricity? Did it ever happen to you? So it's the same principle. So, when the bee lands on the flower, you have the positive charge of the bee and the negative charge of the flower cancelling themselves. Plus, minus. Are you guys with me? Are you guys sleeping or what? Okay. So, when you have plus minus, it cancels each other. Okay? So what happens is that the negative pollen is going to jump on the bee, right? What does that mean? It means that when the minus is jumping on the bee, you have less and less minus on the flower, which means that the electric field of the flower has changed. So what happens is that when the next bee lands on the same flower, that bee will find that the electric field of the flower has changed. What does that mean? That means that the flower is saying to the bee, hey, Mrs. Bee, actually, I don't have pollen anymore. Please come back later. See? And that, my friends, is what we call wireless communication. Right? So you see, that's, again, like we thought that, oh, nice, we have invented telecommunication, Wi-Fi, calling your friends through the phone, satellites and everything. But these guys have invented it way before us, right? So you see now, we have seen how nature can inspire the business in terms of construction, real estate, telecommunication, but it also does apply to the corporate world and even at government level. Because I presume that most of you guys who study public administration, you might end up in government sometime. And for those who study HR, you'll be working probably in the private sector. Well, the thing is, good news for you. Most of the systems that you're going to be using in terms of organizational management is already in nature. Okay? What we need to understand first is what you call an ecosystem. Anyone knows what's an ecosystem? Have you heard of it? Yeah? What's an ecosystem? No one? Yes? Yes, what's an ecosystem?
Ecosystem is a relation between living organisms.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Well done. Yes. So ecosystem, yes. Relationship between different organisms, whether it's plants, whether it's animals, whether it's humans, everything is interconnected, right? And you know, the good thing about Tanzania is that you guys have a great ecosystem. Just go to the savannah, right? So you see, you have the wildebeest. The wildebeest gets eaten by the lion. And then when the lion has finished eating, who's looking after the carcasses? All the scavengers, the vultures, the insects, bacteria, etc. Now, just imagine if one of them was missing in the chain. So just imagine, you're just here, okay? Look at this, it's green, okay? You're in Serengeti. Now, if you do not have the wildebeest eating the grass, you will have too much plants. Are you with me? So, if you don't have wildebeest, you don't have lions, because they will have nothing to feed on, right? And then you won't have scavengers as well. What would happen if you did not have lions? If you did not have lions, you would have too many wildebeest. If you have too many wildebeest, they will be eating all the grass. Yeah? What happens if you eat all the grass? It becomes a desert. So you see, every element of the chain is important in the ecosystem. If you take one of them, then the whole system collapses. It's the same in business. You have the customer, you have the firm or the company, and you have the regulator, the government. If you have no customers, you have no business. Yeah? If you don't have the government to regulate, business will be taking advantage of customers, right? And if you don't have companies and firms, then you have no products, right? So that's the same. It's an ecosystem. So you see, it's all a connected ecosystem. So you see patches, channels, edges, you know, and that's what the business is. It's not just a product, it's also customers, operation, people, money, and rules, okay? And everything is dependent. It's also what you call interdependent. I want you guys to remember this word, interdependent, okay? So for example here, I put the picture of what you call a mangrove, okay? So a mangrove depends on the tides, okay? You know, in this type of environment, you have sediments, you have fish, and you have human behavior upstream. So it's the same in business. Your success as a business person, it depends on your suppliers, it depends on the distribution, it depends also on the behavior of your staff, right? It's the same in nature. It depends on the behavior of the animals. It depends also on the trust with your customers and the regulation. Okay? So, now, one of the things I've seen in the outline of the course is about talking about small businesses. And, you know, when you speak one day, so it's entrepreneurship, right? The main topic, right? Yeah, entrepreneurship. So, is anyone going to start his own business? Yes? That's good. That's good. So, you see, when you're going to start a new business, you will need to think, okay, what business? Am I going to sell clothes? Am I going to build houses? Am I going to start a restaurant? You will need to think what sector you would want to go into, right? So here, again, we have this little hummingbird, and it's very interesting because the hummingbird is in what you call a niche, okay? A niche is a role, it's not just a place. So you see, this hummingbird is not like every bird, because most of birds, they will eat insects, they will eat fruits, they will eat seeds, they will also sometimes hunt some of the flowers, but this little hummingbird is very specialized in one very specific niche. They only go to flowers, that's it. That means that he's succeeding at being very specialized in one thing. He has only one feeding method, you see, and he has only one role in the system. So it's the same in business when you're in entrepreneurship. So small businesses, it wins by focusing on a specific subject, not by copying big businesses, right? So for example, like, let's say you start your own business. Of course, you cannot be like Azam, right? Because Azam is everywhere. They do ice cream. They do, what else do they do except ice cream? What? Yes, right? They're pretty much in every sector. It's like Metal, Mohammed Enterprise. They do import, they do sugar, they do flour, they do everything that you can think of. They even manufacturing helmets, actually, right? But as a small business, you cannot do all of that. You need to focus on something specific. And it's the same. Imagine you just want to become a consultant. You cannot be a general consultant. You have to be a consultant in a very specialized domain, right? So if you are a general consultant, no one is going to buy services from you, right? Because you're too general. However, if you are a consultant in, for example, small business registration and compliance, then people can identify you and come to you and do business with you. Does that make sense? Right. So you see, focusing, fitting your niche, that's one thing. Then, when you start your business, you need to think of what structure am I going to start with in terms of ownership. Am I going to go alone? Is it going to be like a sole proprietorship? Am I going to go into a partnership with some shareholders, with my friend, with my brother, with my cousin? Or are you going to be part of a cooperative? Well, funny thing is, this type of business structure already exists in nature. So for example, if I take sole proprietorship, in nature it's what we call solitary organisms. So it's like animals who must perform every function of survival, but alone. So you see, for example, lions, they live in pride, right? So you have the alpha male, and then you have all his wives and all the kids and some other lions around. So they're in group, right? That's how lions work. But leopard, can you see the picture? Yeah, it's a leopard. So leopard, they're alone. You see? The thing is, with lions, they have space in one group of lions. You have some lions who will be looking after the territory, just like askaris, right? You have lions who will be specialized in hunting. You have lions who will be specialized in feeding the kids, etc., etc. But these species, like a bear or even a leopard, they have to do everything by themselves. They have to hunt, they have to defend, they have to mate. You see? So that's the analogy with what you call sole proprietorship. You're doing everything by yourself, right? So there is a risk to that. Because the thing is, if you're sick and you're doing everything by yourself, then your business is not running, right? So it's the same. Like if this leopard dies, it's the end of the species, right? But in the pride of lion, if one lion dies, it's okay. You still got 10 of them. Does that make sense? So you see, whatever you do, I want you to think of what is the risk. You have to anticipate, right? So we just talked about sole proprietorship. Another one is what you call partnership. So partnership is basically when you ask for a partner to come in your business with equity. They take shares of your business. You do 50-50. You know, you go to Umbrella to purchase your business license. You're going to pay 100k shilling. He or she is going to pay the other 100k shilling. So in the animal world, you also have that. It's what we call mutualism. So it's when two different organisms interact together for mutual benefits. So here, you see the fish? It's what we call a clownfish. It's a clownfish. And you see what's around? Around is what we call an anemone. Okay? So an anemone is actually providing protection because the anemone has venom. So whoever wants to eat the clownfish has to go through the animal, but the animal has venom. So, and the clownfish is immune to that venom. So every time he gets chased, he just go and take refuge with the animal. You see? So basically, the clownfish is also providing nutrients to the animal through its poop. Remember? Poop of someone is food for another one. Not for us. It's good. So you see, the animal is providing protection, and the clownfish is providing nutrients. So what's the point here? Is that the partners cannot survive without each other. Just imagine you want to start a real estate business. You have one guy who's a construction guy, and the other guy is a finance guy. You see, that's a good match. Because one will be handling the technical stuff, the other one will be handling the money, right? So that's a good combination. You see? And also earlier I was talking about cooperation. You see? So this, can you see the bee? Yeah. So you see? So this is what we call super organism. So super organism is basically aggregation of a lot of units like ants or bees to form either a beehive or a colony. So here, like basically the concept here is that the colony has a life and an identity which is separate from any individual member. You see? So the individual ant or the individual bee may die, but the colony continues to live. You see? Do you understand? Yeah? So you see, like it's like a big corporation. If you like, just take like a very big corporation in Tanzania. Everyone has a specialized role. You see, you have HR, you have marketing, you have sales, you have technical development, logistics, etc. Well, it's the same with a super organism. You see, you have the queen, which is here to reproduce. Then you have the drones. Then you have the workers. And then you have those bees who are specialized into feeding the larvae, etc., etc. So I talked about corporations. I also would like to talk about cooperative, like a school or a pack. And here I would like to give a little lesson about leadership. So, you know this animal? Yeah, that's a wolf. So we don't have many of them in Africa. But they are very popular in North America and some parts of Asia and even in Europe. So as you know, wolves are basically the ancestor of dogs, of modern dogs. So here basically what happens is that just think of farmers, right? You have many different farmers, and at some point they will gather together to form what you call cooperatives. Why? Because together you are stronger. It's the same for wolves. So basically what happens is that individual members will join together to gain power in a larger entity. Okay? And you see, this is how wolves are hanging around in nature. And this is very interesting. So you see, they're just walking behind each other. It seems very simple when you just look at it from this lens. But actually, it's more sophisticated than that. Okay. So you see, it's very interesting. What happens is that the old members and the injured members of the group are actually walking in front. Why? Because they will be setting the pace for the rest of the group. So So you see basically here, you have the old guys and the injured ones. Behind them, you have the 5 strongest wolves of the pack. Then, in between, you have all the females and the children. Behind, you have the 5 next strongest of the pack. And who's this guy? Who's this one? Raise your hand. Who's the one in blue? Raise your hand. Yes. The alpha male. Yes. Yes. Good. Well done. It's the alpha male. You see? It's the alpha male. It's the leader. It's the leader. And you know, the funny thing with the wolves is that, you know, we always think that the alpha male is like the biggest and the strongest. He's one of the strongest, but he's not the strongest. He's one of the strongest, but also one of the smartest. Very important. You see? It's like the CEO of a company. The CEO of the company is not always the most technical proficient, but is the one who knows a bit about everything. He knows about technical stuff, he knows about financial management, he knows about human resources, he knows about logistics, etc. It's exactly the same in a work pack. And the interesting thing here is that we humans, if we had to replicate the same structure, usually it would be that guy who would be in front, right? But animals have a different way of thinking. This guy is pushing the others forward. Okay. So this is a very interesting type of leadership. What does that mean? It means that basically the alpha male is empowering the rest of the group. Why? It means that he puts his trust in these 5 strong guys and these other 5 strong guys to protect the whole group. You see? That's a different type of leadership. Yes. Now let's talk about startup models. Okay, so I need to speed up. Let's talk about this one. Okay, so this is a plant which has very interesting seeds. So you see, when there is wind, the seeds are just spreading through the nature. So what does that mean? It means that many experiments are necessary. Because what do you think? All of these are seeds. When you have wind, all the seeds are spreading. Do you think every seed will result in a plant? No, they won't. Because some of the seeds might be eaten by animals. Some of the seeds might end up here on this floor, and they will not germinate, right? They will not become plants. What does that mean? It means that this plant has to spread as many seeds as possible to ensure that they will have some kind of offspring. Well, it's the same in entrepreneurship. You have to start a lot of ideas before one idea becoming successful. Does that make sense? So yeah, it means like, are you starting from scratch? Are you buying an existing business? You have to think of different ways of starting a business. Okay? Okay, now let's talk about risk management. This is something very interesting that will be key for those who work in corporate. I can tell you, whoever knows about risk management, at some point you will get some promotion. So you see, Risk management is about having a strategy and anticipating the future. So you see, this little guy is what we call a meerkat, I'm sure you guys know. And the meerkat's way of operating is that they constantly check what is going on around before coming out. Because if they don't, they get eaten alive. Okay? In business terms, is what you call a feasibility study. Have you guys heard of that? Okay, right? So basically, when this little animal gets out of ground, he's doing a feasibility study. He's starting to look around, is there food here? Right? Then, is it safe? Is there a lion? Who else is there? Okay? Is the environment stable? Is it raining? Is it snowing? Whatever. Well, it's the same. When you start a business, you have to do a feasibility study first. You need to understand, are there any customers? There are customers. How much are they willing to pay? How much are they willing to spend? Is there a real demand? It's a market study. Then you need to understand, is it safe? Is there any risk? You need to understand what are the regulations, is there supply? If there is supply, is it reliable? Okay. And then you need to understand, are there any competitors? Are you competing for the same customers? Okay. Is the environment stable? Is there seasonality? For example, like if you start a tourism business, you need to understand the different seasons. Okay, you're not going to go to Serengeti all year long. It's very specific period throughout the year, right? So yes, anticipation, risk management. But of course, when you start a business, you need to put money in it, right? You need to invest. Now, some people, when they start a business, they go to debt. So they will go to a bank to ask for money to get some initial capital. All right. So that's what you call debt financing. And in nature, that exists already. So not so much in Africa, but in the coldest part of the planet, in Europe, especially North America, even Russia, you have what you call hibernation. So basically, you have animals like, so you can't really see it on screen, but basically it's a bear. So the bear during winter will just go into a cave and sleep for 4 or 5 months in a row. So basically, the bear has accumulated a certain level of fat within its body, and it will be basically borrowing that energy for its own future, storing the fat and using it during its sleep. Okay. So that's a kind of debt, actually. So when you have debt, you also have what you call interest. Heard of interest rates? No one? Okay. Well, basically, for the so when you borrow 10, basically you have to reimburse 12. That's the principle of interest on debt. So the interest for the bear is the metabolic cost of carrying that extra weight. Okay, and the risk that if the winter is too long, the loan cannot be repaid. So it's the principle. Another way of financing your business is to ask for investors to chip in, shareholders. So for example, you will be asking for investment funds, or even asking from your family to put a bit of money into your business. Okay? So in that case, we have what you call the leaf cutter ant. So this is very interesting. So basically the ant is providing the infrastructure, so the nest, okay, and the labor for cutting the leaves, right? And it's again kind of a mutual partnership with fungus. You guys have heard of fungus? Yeah? So the thing is, the fungus is actually the only thing that the ants are eating. So the fungus actually owns the nutrition of the colony. So the ants cannot survive without the fungus. But the fungus cannot survive without the ant cutting the leaves. The fungus will grow on the leaves cut by the ants. You see? So it's the same thing as a strategic partnership. On one hand, you have the investors, and on the other hand, you have the business operators. Without the business operators, the investors are not making money. Without the investors, the business operators do not have the capital to operate. Does that make sense? Yes? And of course, one of the things which is very important in nature and also in a company, but also in a government, is managing resources. So by resources, we mean people, process, and material. Okay? You see, one of the examples I put here is a cactus in the desert. Okay, so you see, it's those plants which evolve in very harsh environment with a lot of sun, very high temperature, and with little to no water. So what they do is that these plants try to store as much water as they can. Another thing that you have to know about plants is that plants actually go through what we call evaporation. See? Like, for example, when you're sweating, you have water on your body when you have sweat, right? It's the same for plants. They have what you call perspiration. Sometimes plants produce water, and the water will evaporate. However, in a harsh environment, you cannot have the luxury of spending water, because water is a very rare commodity. It's a very precious resource. Yeah? So the thing is, the plant will actually reduce its evaporation and store as much water as they can. And that's exactly how operates a company. A company has a budget, right? It means that, let's say you're running a logistics company, you have a limited budget. You cannot recruit as much people as you want. You cannot purchase as much trucks as you would like. You cannot purchase as many computers as you would like. Am I right? It's the same. So what do you do? When you have a budget, you need to translate that into control. So you will put some inventory, you will have some informal credit, some spending control, some quality control, and all these sorts of processes. That's the same in nature, right? Okay, now let's talk about feedback. So feedback, basically, is you make mistakes and you learn. We all do mistakes, right? Well, it's the same in nature. One of the things which we all have within our body is called an immune system. An immune system is all about mistakes, trial and error. When we get attacked by a bacteria or a virus, the first thing our body does is to fail. That's why we fall sick, right? However, the body learns. So the first time you will fall sick because you got infected by the bacteria. But the second time the bacteria comes around, your body is actually prepared because your body has learned from the first infection, right? It's the same in business. It's about feedback, okay? And by having constant feedback, this is how you improve your business performance. And that goes through communication. So for example, having a simple board with the objectives of the day or feedback from the past months or the past weeks. A daily 10-minute stand-up. And then some clear escalations during delays, for example, or even a checklist. So that's what you call failure is feedback. That's how you learn. About that, feedback is to be fast, okay? You need to react on time. Because if you get the information too late, then it's too late. Now, another example I would like to give you is what you call swarm intelligence. So, these are birds. Have you ever noticed how birds fly together? Right? And you know when they fly together, they fly all in the same direction. Have you noticed that? You see, they're not flying all over the place and in random directions. Why? It's because they communicate between each other. Okay? So, for example, like that guy is here, he will say, oh, I don't see anything to eat. So let's change direction. So he will pass the message to all the rest of the team. And that's how they communicate, by feedback. See? And this is what you call the swarm rule. So basically, what they do is that they align direction, they stay close to each other, and also one thing that you will notice is that they avoid collision. You don't see two birds bumping to each other. Have you ever seen two birds bumping into each other? Never, right? Why? It's because they communicate. And when you communicate in nature very quickly, that's a way to respond to danger very quickly. You see? So it's about team rules, aligning goals, communicating very quickly, and that's what you call short feedback cycle. Now, one thing that we need to talk about as well, and for those who will be into the innovation business, is protecting your idea. Okay? IP. You know what is IP? What is it? Intellectual property. So, intellectual property means that you need to protect it, you need to defend it, you need to defend yourself. And in nature, again, it's the same. You have several defense mechanisms. Okay? So here you have some frogs. The interesting thing in nature is that when you see animals or plants with very bright colors, what does that mean? It means danger. Right? It means don't mess around. Right? So bright signals, bright colors signals danger. It means do not mess with me. Another way of protecting yourself in nature is structural protection, like the turtle. Right? They have a shell to protect themselves. And it's the same in business. You have trademark protection. So for example, if you have a brand like Nike or iPhone, you cannot just start a business and call it the same, right? What will happen if you do that? You have plenty of lawyers knocking at your door on the next day to say, hey, you're infringing trademark, copyright rights. And then they'll take you to court. And then good luck, right? So it's the same. Patents as well, okay? So sometimes the interesting thing is that in business, the strongest protection is not necessarily legal paperwork. It's also speed and trust. Okay? So if you start a business very quickly and that very soon you become established, customers will prefer to come to your place rather than the new guy. Why? Because you've been operating for a long time. So they will trust you a bit more than the new guy who started his business. That's a form of protection as well. Okay? Okay, one thing we haven't talked about is the regulator. The regulator, which is the government, right? The government creates laws, regulation, and all sorts of compliance. Okay? Why? Because if you don't have regulations, people and business will always take advantage from each other, right? There won't be any rules. That would be a total mess. That's why you need regulations. And the thing is, sorry. You saved my life. Yes, you need regulations. Nature regulates itself. So the picture here is what you call a wetland. So a wetland is basically protecting the ecosystem by filtering slowly but effectively like all the sediments. It also breaks down pollutants. Studies have found out that some factories are just dumping their chemicals into rivers, and what happens is that these wetlands are actually filtering all the chemicals in the river, and basically it's kind of a regulation from a nature perspective. Okay? So compliance is here to prevent fraud, unsafe products, exploitation, unfair competition, and tax evasion. Well, it's the same. It's a bit the same here. Basically, the wetlands are regulating the flow and quality of the water within the river. Okay. Yes. Now, when you will start your business, not everything is going to go smooth. Okay? You will fail at some point, but that's all right. Again, you do not lose, you learn. Okay? And that happens in nature all the time, especially during forest fires. Okay? So, from a human perspective, when we see forest fires, we are very sad. We think, oh my God, the forest is being disrupted. But actually, it's a natural phenomenon in nature. It's actually a regeneration mechanism. It's also what we call a recovery mechanism. What happens is, some trees only reproduce themselves by having fires because they release their seeds only with very high temperatures. It's weird, huh? But that's the way it works. So basically when a fire happens, they just release their seeds, and sometimes because you get burned trees and leaves, the nutrients are just returning to the soil, right? For those who are familiar with farming and growing trees or plants, actually when you spread ashes on the ground, it's actually a very good fertilizer. And the trees and the plants are growing even stronger. You see the concept? It's the same here. So my point here is that disturbance is normal. It's a natural thing to be disturbed and to fail. The thing is you have to learn from it, and you have to grow stronger. It's a little bit like the immune system that I was talking about a bit earlier. The more you get sick, technically the more stronger you become to certain types of disease. See? So if we do an analogy with the fire, so basically once you stop the fire from spreading, it costs you, from a business perspective, that it will cut cost, you will stop loss-making products, you will stop waste, okay? And then once the fire is finished, the forest will basically restore itself, okay? From a business perspective, that means that you're stabilizing your cash flow, or maybe you're renegotiating your payment terms with your suppliers or your clients, okay? And then when the forest is regenerating itself, it means that new plants are coming up, new trees are coming up, okay? Which means that from your perspective, you may come up with a new product or a new service, okay? And that's how you rebuild your business. That's how forests are rebuilding themselves. Okay, so yeah, I think that's about it for me today. Again, I would like you guys to think of what is an ecosystem. Remind yourself what is an ecosystem. Remind yourself about what does it mean to be interdependent. You see, have you guys ever heard of the butterfly effect? Yeah? No? The butterfly effect concept is that a butterfly flapping its wing in Brazil might provoke a tornado in Senegal. You see? What does that mean? It means that every action has a consequence. And every stakeholder has its importance. It's like what we discussed at the very beginning. Remember, the wildebeest, the lion, the vultures, the trees, and the grass. If we take out one of them, then the whole system will collapse. It's the same. If you don't have customers, if you don't have the government, if you don't have business, there is no environment. Right? So what's the conclusion for today? The conclusion is that if you're running out of ideas, just walk into nature, just observe the plants, observe the trees, observe how the animals behave, and you may be inspired and get some new business ideas and make money. Alright? So, thank you for your attention. Thank you for those who participated. Actually, I still have chocolate. Yeah, actually, I would like to ask someone in the crowd, what have you learned today? Yes. You had a chocolate already? Yeah? Okay. He wants to be a billionaire, I like that.
Good morning, class. First of all, thank you very much, our session provider, for this golden chance. It's second today. Yeah, I have learned a lot of things in this session. But in briefly, I read 3 things that are very important to translate nature into billionaires. How nature can help a man to be a billionaire. Firstly, we should design. Our environment has a lot of nature that when we design them, we make it. After designing, they are going to construct. We construct different diagrams and features according to nature. And they are going to operate. How can we operate what we have to do? We operate them either for making them uses or selling them. That is where we do. Thank you very much.
have one more left. Anyone? Anyone else has learned anything? Have you guys learned anything from today? Okay. Yes? Same guy. Ah. Okay. We need more competition. Yes, sir. What have you learned?
Thank you for this opportunity. I have learned something that is very big. And all is about the interdependence and the relation between business. As you have compared it with the ecosystem, you have said that animals are working in interdependent way. That you can find a lion eating maybe, let's protect an example like a cow. That is interdependence. The same applied to the business or entrepreneur. Entrepreneur interdependent to the customer or the environment. And more you have said that in some situation, entrepreneur can find the obstacles. The same applied to the ecosystem. There are some instances the forest can be fired. That is do not mean that if the forest gets fire, it is the end. No. That is the step toward the achievement, because you have said that to those farmers, when they burn let us say burn some waste and plant seeds into the area where there are ashes, you can find that seeds grow very well and produce big fruits. The same applies once entrepreneurs face obstacle in the step toward the achievement. So you have to try more and more so as to achieve. Thank you. That's
Yes, well done.
What can I say? This is your second time to be with us. Last year, we came to Mzumbe Ake campus, and the master students, specifically MBA students, had the opportunity to learn so much from you about how we can be so much inspired by nature. And I thought, well, why can't Prasad also come to the Tegeta campus? There's a dire need for our undergraduate students to also be exposed to a way of learning from a different perspective. And again, I can honestly tell you, Prasad, you delivered again. And I truly believe that today's session was very inspiring to get understanding entrepreneurship through the lens of nature. So on behalf of everybody, Prasad, thank you so much. Thank you for the little incentive and chocolates. And I know they came from very, very, very far, right? So thank you so much, and please do come back again. And thank you again.
Pleasure.
TV. Nataka kuongea na wanafunzi au kwa Kiswahili au I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wow. Yes. Okay. So if you learned something today, you raise your hand and I'm going to take a selfie of everyone, right? Did you learn something? Yes. Raise your hand.
On this side.
This side.
This side.
This side.
Wow.
This side.
This side.
Thank you.
Yes, mimi naitwa Kongo, nasoma kozi ya public administration. Kitu ambacho nimefunza vizuri sana kwenye semina leo, kitu muhimu ambacho nimechukua katika rasilimali na ambacho ni kitu muhimu sana kwa jamii, kwamba kila napofikiria kuhusiana na fursa mpya kwenye rasilimali, niangalie nature au mazingira yanayozunguka. Kuna nafasi nyingi sana ambazo zitanipa mimi ideas kuja na kitu gani kipya kwa ajili ya jamii kwa ujumla. Kwa hiyo kwa mtu yeyote ambaye ni mjasiriamali au anawaza kuhusiana na biashara, anatakiwa asitafute sana kwenye mtabu, angalie tu mazingira yanayomzunguka, anaweza akapata wazo mpya kuhusiana na namna gani anaweza akafanya biashara au kuvumbua kitu kipya sana.
Naitwa Semina wa Kikuu PA. Kwa leo nimejifunza vitu vingi kuhusiana na nature na jinsi gani tunaweza kuinteract na vitu tunafanya. Mfano, nilichojifunza ni kwamba mazingira yanaweza kuhusiana na kila kitu ambacho tunafanya, ikiwepo mambo ya biashara, mambo ya infrastructure, yaani kila kitu ambacho tunafanya katika mazingira yetu ya kawaida yanayotuzunguka, aidha kama ni chuo, kama ni nyumbani. Na kingine ambacho nimejifunza ni jinsi ya kuhusianisha kati ya nature na shughuli za binadamu. Mfano, katika nature kuna opportunity nyingi, kwa tunaweza kutumia hizo nafasi au hizo opportunities zinazotokana na nature kuleta katika fursa au katika kujipatia kipato. Asante.